Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday, December 10th meeting of your Irving Las Colinas Rotary Club, celebrating 83 years of service to the Irving community. You'll stand with me. Our invocation today will be led by Bobby Haas, our pledge by Richard Raymond. Neil and Sandra will lead us in singing Joy to the World, and Dr. Parr will introduce our visiting Rotarians and guests. Bobby?
Let us pray. We thank you, dear Father, for all that you have done to help us to find security during this time, dear Father. We ask that as we celebrate Advent and also Hanukkah, we also ask that you will be with us and that you will guide us and strengthen us. As we switch presidents, and next month we ask that the transition may go smoothly. Be with us now and bless us in all we do. In your precious Son's name, amen.
Thank you, Bobby. Richard, lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you got your song sheets. Well, it is the Christmas time of year. If you love Christmas carols, we're glad that we were able to start the meeting with that. Well, Dr. Parr is going to introduce our visiting Rotarians and guests. I think we only have Aaron also. Who are you a guest of? Are you my guest? All right. Thank you, Aaron. We're glad you're here. We have another guest, our speaker, but we'll introduce her in just a moment. So we're glad that you're here. Let's give all of our visiting Rotarians and guests a warm welcome. Not sure if anybody's visiting online. I just looking up there, want to say hi to Jim Klein and Clint Howard and Mara Gass, John Eastwood, Randy Hubbard, and Patty Caperton. So I'm glad all of you are able to join us via Zoom and the world of technology. We've got a couple of announcements. So the first announcement, Bill Labar, come up here. We had a special recognition last week. I want Bill to tell you all about it. Go ahead.
So Rick Lindsay and I went last Friday to the Remington to recognize Dr. Oberlin. But they had COVID in the building, so Rick bugged out. But because I'm a pastor and I had the card, they let me in. And I think we have a picture. You didn't get it? Well, I have a picture. We'll get it to you. Dr. Oberlin, I had called Amy, their daughter, beforehand to tell her mother what we were going to do. So Mary had him sitting up. And when I came in, he was absolutely thrilled to get his 55-year recognition, 55 years of service. You know, I asked him, surely you couldn't find someplace to go on Thursdays for lunch, but 55 years of service, and he got his award, and he was very thrilled and honored to get that, and very grateful to the club for recognizing him. You probably know that he's on hospice care now, and he's got congestive heart failure. His very difficult for him to move around. And, but Mary had him up and sitting in a chair. He's even gotten rid of his little motorized scooter. It's
How old is
Dr. O is 95. He and Mary both are 95, and she's still a wonder of nature. But Dr. O is, you know, he survived West Nile, he survived pneumonia, and now he's got congestive heart failure. And that's a bad combination of things when you're that old. So continue to remember him in your prayers, and he thanks the club from the bottom of his heart for that recognition.
And Bill, would you do me a favor? Would you send that picture to Jordan right now? And we're going to try to get it up before the end of the meeting. And so all of you can have a chance to see Dr. Oberlin receiving that award. A couple of the things that we want to recognize, but let me just call on Ed McCarty. You want to give us a quick update on, we have all of our bell ringers for tomorrow and yes.
This Saturday we have Brother Irving and Bob, who's one? His wife Donna, Laura, and Fuzzy, and close out with John and River and Max Clay.
Wonderful.
Beautiful days to do it. Also, I'll let you know now.
Come right ahead. Come up to the mic so they can hear you online better, all right?
Maybe it's been said, but Robert Nelson's mother, Ann Nelson, passed away last week. She'd had a stroke and under hospice care and passed away.
Thank you for that. Well, I hope all of you enjoyed the bell ringing, and Miss Aaron and I will be out there the following Saturday, the 19th, to get it started. So what a great time of year. I'm going to call Bobby Haas. We have a couple of attendance awards to give. So
We have 4 attendance awards to give today. The first one is for someone who is on Zoom, and that would be Mara Gass with 8 years of service.
all right, Mara. So Mara, you have to officially unzoom yourself so that you can receive your attendance award. There you unzoomed yourself. That looks almost exactly like your picture. We want to say thank you for your attendance, Mara, and your continued participation in Rotary. Who we have next here, Bobby?
The next one is 5 years of service. It's hard to believe it's been 5 years since he came here, but the Duke Van Buren.
John
5
Van Buren,
years.
come on up.
Hey!
No microphone, just the pen. All right.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your participation in Rotary. Bobby, who we have next?
Wait a minute, we have to have a picture.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we do. Scoot that way just a bit. Jordan, you got the camera there? Come on in. You come in the middle, John. You come in the middle here, man. That way we can both.
Got me surrounded.
Yeah. Got it, Jordan? Okay. Congratulations. All right, who's next here, Bobby?
Next one is 3 years of service for Richard Raymond.
Richard Raymond, come on up, 3 years. That's a lot of flags in 3 years. We're grateful for that. Let's do it on this side here.
Okay.
Richard, congratulations. Jump in here in the middle. Jordan's going to get our picture. Got it. Very good.
We're gonna need another photographer right now because this one is for Jordan Alston.
Jordan Alston.
1 year of service.
All right. Who knows how to take a picture? Aaron can take a picture. All right. Jordan, come up and receive your pen.
It's what many years.
What a minute. All right. Got it. Thank you very much. All
And
right. And what else do we have?
have a,
Step over to the microphone there.
it's a blessing for me to give a Paul Harris +7 to Robert also.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's see if I covered all of my announcements today. I believe that I have. Let me just remind everybody, Christmas programs next week with the Davidsons. The club has asked if we could give them an advance head count. So if you're planning on attending and bringing a guest, or if you're watching online and you're planning on joining us in person, if you just send me a text message sometime between now and Monday, they asked me to give them that count by Tuesday morning so they can prepare the proper meals. We'd like to fill the room and enjoy the celebration of the Christmas holiday. And once again, we will not be meeting the following 2 Thursdays. So Thursday, December 24th, Christmas Eve, Thursday, December 31st, New Year's Eve. We will not be meeting after next week. Our next meeting will be Thursday, January 7th. And I'll be starting the new year with a little update from the club and invite you to be here and be part of that. Well, we have a great speaker today. We've had to move her around on the schedule a couple of times, but she's here in person, ready to speak to us. So John Van Buren is going to come up and introduce our speaker today. So give it up for the Duke. Thank you, John.
Somebody said as I walked up here, make it quick. Are you kidding? This is a microphone. There are a lot of people that talk about things that need to be done. And most of them don't do anything about it except talk. Then there are a handful of people who, when they see a need, decide to do something about it. Fortunately, many of those people are people of faith, and they realize that there are a lot of needy people in the world. They realize that the Bible tells us to carry each other's burden, and they realize that the Bible tells us to care for the needy and love each other. A person came into my life some years ago who absolutely fulfills all of those things. And by the way, a woman who, one of the few in the world that tells me what to do and I actually do it. So I'd like to introduce my friend, my mentor, my boss, Ruby Sevcik.
So clearly you guys know him well enough to know you have to give him a time limit on the mic. So John asked me to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the things that are happening in the nonprofit sector here in Irving. And in particular, to talk about an organization that's close to my heart besides Crisis Ministries, which was where I'm the CEO. Several years ago, a small group of nonprofits started a ad hoc committee called the Irving Homeless Coalition in Poverty Group. Over the years, that has evolved into what is now known the Irving Community Action Network, because we don't just deal with poverty in a homeless sense, but also want to address those who are near homeless. For many years, nonprofits were focused on reacting to a problem instead of being proactive to prevent the problem of homelessness. Certainly, in the last couple of years, we've made the greatest strides in that we have incorporated as our own nonprofit. We have a website that is filled with resources for those in the community who need resources. And we have a Facebook page where we can communicate with the public about opportunities for them, whether it's jobs, where they can get food, where they can get clothing, hygiene, etc. What I want to share with you that's most important about this network that we've created is that each of the nonprofits realizes we can't do it alone. We have to collaborate. And so ICANN is an opportunity for nonprofits to come together to look at what the needs are in our community and then identify the needed resources. So whether a single nonprofit might expand its mission into that area, or whether we need to find a nonprofit that is already performing those services but does not perform them in Irving. Many years ago, out of that cooperation and that kind of gap assessment, if you will, were born organizations like Crisis Ministries, the Main Place, which provides a retail shopping experience without a cash register for people who need clothing for jobs, or prom dresses for the young lady who can't afford a prom dress. Out of that was also born a teen mentoring service in All Things Made New, which helps young people find hope and encouragement, and someone who will generally guide them and lead them and give them the skills they need to be successful adults. Among those is also organizations that have names that are more familiar to you, like Brighter Tomorrows, which helps battered women. And one of the things they added a couple of years ago to be more proactive rather than reactive was to add classes on anger management so they can try to address the anger issues up front and prevent battering. I would also tell you that Family Promise, again, a need very much in Irving, which helped homeless families. There were a lot of people helping street homeless, but nobody was helping men or women with children who were homeless. And so Family Promise was born out of that collaboration when the need was found. For many of you, you may recognize the signs of things that are happening because you read them in the paper and you can kind of see the forecast of what's coming down. We certainly have been largely impacted by COVID-19 and the job losses that we've seen. But the numbers that aren't being always captured are how many people in our very community are being impacted. Every month since COVID, we have seen the number of new families that have come just to Crisis Ministries to be 80 to 100 families every month that come to us for either groceries or financial assistance. Those that were most impacted were single parents living in extended stay. And I'm gonna sit here for just a moment because I want to tell you the story about a young lady. There was a lady who, fleeing Chicago because of all the crime in Chicago, encouraged her husband for them to move to Texas for a better life. They sold everything they had. They moved to Irving and they got a room in a local motel. Because of her husband's past history, they couldn't actually get an apartment. So, because that's usually the first question, why don't they go to an apartment instead of motel? But they couldn't because of his record. The reality is that shortly after they got here, her husband again got into the same kind of situations he was in Chicago, because you can always find trouble if you're looking for it. And her husband was murdered. She was now left with 2 teenagers and a small child, and she was pregnant with a 4th child. She came to our attention at the beginning of COVID and did not know what she could do because she had to stay at home with the children and had to give up her job because she couldn't leave her children alone in a motel when they stopped being able to go to school. At that moment, my heart was tugged greatly, and I reached out immediately to the homeless liaison for Irving ISD. And her name is Gail Wortham, and she is a real champion for our homeless students. I spoke to Gail and I learned that we probably had about 400 students living in motels with single parents. And because the moratorium on evictions did not cover motels, we risked having that many young people on our streets. We made a plea at Crisis Ministries, as did other nonprofits, to the community to say, we can't have these students on the street. And the community of Irving, the churches and other people started sending us checks, including their stimulus checks, because they didn't need the stimulus checks. They knew who needed them. We worked with this young lady, and over the course of the next 6 months, we paid her motel rent while she qualified for HUD housing. And 2 months ago, she moved into the first apartment that she's lived in 3 years. She now has a job and is extremely happy. She actually works at Burlington Coat Factory, and she is on a graduated rent program so that in a year from now, she'll be able to provide fully for herself. When she moved into that apartment, she wasn't going to have anything, no furniture. And what ICANN did was immediately reach out to all of its members and ask for pots and pans, towels, sheets, beds, everything you can put into an apartment. And again, the community responded. That's what ICANN is about. We are advocates for people in our community who need us. We continue to expand. We now have members from different parts of the Baylor Scott and White organization. We have certainly Irving Cares is a recent member now. And we find that our 28 member strong organization has moved actual mountains because this community has been so generous. And I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you for the way that Rotary has supported nonprofits, including Crisis Ministries. We could not do this without generous donors. The other thing I will share with you about Irving Community Action Network is next year, we will be expanding to offering seminars online that will be assistance-based to help people get the skills they need and learn different things in order to, again, be successful, to not fall back into the pattern of near homelessness. We also continue to work with the street homeless. Our word at Crisis Ministries is road warriors. While we have about 40% that are there because of mental health issues, we have others that are there because of some other catastrophe in their life, usually a health condition. They were taking care of an ill parent, and when that parent passed away, they had nothing of their own because they'd given up their jobs to take care of that parent. And we are looking for ways to help them who want to get off the streets. Again, out of that was born more recently in September, the Irving Homeless Task Force. We have for years partnered the members of ICANN to house our road warriors in extreme weather. We put them up in hotels for a couple of years. We put them up at Bear Creek. Because of COVID, we've moved back to having to do it at hotels, but we are providing for them so that they're not out in the cold. You might ask, well, why don't they go to a shelter? Well, usually during the weather is really extreme, all the shelters are full. But right now, the shelters can't take you unless you have a negative COVID test. So most of them are only about 40% full. So they can't go without a negative test. So we must house them here at local motels. Again, the motel industry, thank you, Mara Gast, for working with them because we were able to negotiate very favorable rates so that it wasn't too much of a burden on our nonprofits. I'm trying to think of what else I can tell you guys. I'm really passionate about this, and I used to usually walk around, so being stuck behind a mic is tough. But I would tell you, for those of us involved in this, this is a labor of love. Many of us are just volunteer organizations. Crisis Ministries has existed for 30 years as of this month, and we've always been 100% volunteer. Everybody that does what they do does it because they love their neighbors. And I would tell you that's true of almost every nonprofit in Irving. I would encourage you to visit our ICANN website. It's www.icanirving.org. On that website, you'll see a list of our members as well as a lot of resources broken down by category. So if somebody needs food, clothing, ex-felon services, senior services, and so forth, that's where you can find the resources. We encourage you to direct people there if they have a need or if they want to donate. There's a way for you to go to that website, sign up to volunteer. And when you sign up to volunteer, you're giving us what your passion area is, and then we align you with the appropriate nonprofit, or we'll give you their information and you can select a nonprofit. So with that, again, I just want to really encourage each of you that think about those this Christmas season who are maybe having a tough time, they're really struggling, and even a smile will give people hope. We find smiles go a long way. We wish we could hug people, but we can't hug them right now. But we do give them lots of smiles. And we'll be doing, actually, again, at Crisis Ministries, between Friday and Christmas Eve, every day that our neighbors come to us for assistance, they will get a special surprise from us to hopefully make the holidays brighter. So with that, I'll be happy to answer questions. Yes, sir. So better clothes, if they're better clothes, not so worn, they would go to the main place. If they're a little bit more worn, there are a couple of places in Irving that can use the clothes, but they're not necessarily members. So one of those is Northgate United Methodist. They have a clothes closet. Bear Creek Community Church has a clothes closet. And certainly there are places you can take them where they would be sold to benefit nonprofits. So certainly you could donate to Salvation Army, you could donate to Goodwill, Stars and Stripes Bargain Center at Story and Rock Island. I'm trying to think of the other places in Irving. And then I think there's a thrift store where Salvation Army thrift store used to be, and they donate a portion of their proceeds to the main place. Anybody else? So we don't take TV. I don't know anybody right now that takes those items just to repurpose them. We are looking for a facility, either free or at a reduced cost, to start a furniture bank, because we are housing so many people. We would love to already have the furniture rather than make one time, please. So we are looking for a facility where we can set up furniture and store pots and pans and all of those kinds of things. Again, some of our thrift stores have been really helpful. Usually if I send someone down to Stars and Stripes and I contact them and say, I've got somebody that needs a table, but they can't afford one, they'll make a table available to them for free. So, any other questions? Is that it? Well, okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Ruby, thank you for being here. What a great resource to our community. You guys were also efficient. We're ahead of schedule. So maybe you don't have a question for Ruby, but just any points of order or discussion? Yes, sir. Oh, this is the picture of Bill presenting the award to Dr. Oberlin on the screen there. He does look like he was happy to receive that, and probably happy to have a visitor. I'm going to make myself a note. I think what I'd like to do next week, if you will participate with me, is at the end of the meeting, I want us to do a recording, and we're going to say, Merry Christmas, Dr. O, or something like that, and we'll record it. We'll get it to Bill, and Bill can get it to Dr. Oberlin. so he can get a greeting from all of us. And maybe we'll even just set up a camera on a tripod and you can stop by and just do a personal greeting or something like that. And we have some others that are shut in or not able to attend. Maybe we could send messages to them as well. So I am grateful for all of you that do take the time to come and be here in person. Grateful for all of you that are joining us online, but we want to make sure that we're not forgetting some of our Rotarians that aren't able to attend because they are in rehab or in some type of facility to help them get well. Where's Bobby? There he is. Anything else we need to cover? All right. John Van Buren. Yes, sir. The district roundtable this Saturday virtually. You can join online. So we'll have several of our Avenue of Service chairs that will be participating in that. So and I do want to give a shout out to Don Jensen, who participated 2 weeks ago when there was a district grants workshop that we had to participate in order to be able to get grants for next year. I was out of town, but he so graciously joined and sent a very good report. So say a thank you to Don for that. Well, Ruby, if you'll stick around, if somebody else has a question or maybe a way that they'd like to connect with you, if you don't mind a few minutes after the meeting, she'll be here. Also on your tables, I picked up some of the extra printed material that Chris Wallace had last week, or if some of you that are on Zoom, if you'd like to have a copy of that, if you want to put a message in the chat that, hey, I want a copy of that material that Chris Wallace had, then we'll make sure we get that to you. But if you're here in person and you didn't get a copy last week, grab a copy from your table, just some of the things that the North Texas Commission, or is that right? Yes. We'll be doing and advocating for the communities in the upcoming legislative session. Well, if we don't have any other topics of discussion, I'm going to ask you to stand with me. Mike Kunstadt's going to lead us in our four-way test, and we will be adjourning our meeting. So, Mike. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you for being here today. We'll see you at the Christmas program next week with the Davidsons. We are adjourned. Well, a special thank you to all of you joining us online.